Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fresco Football, a fresh take on football, because Fresco is fresh in Italian, in case you were wondering. But you weren't. You're just wondering what's going on, because you see 4 faces on this screen and a few which I don't think you've seen ever work together for a long time. Hugh, I think the last time you and I actually did any work together was the 2018 World Cup with TalkSport. That's how long it's been.
Yes,
That's
indeed.
been a long time. I was a lot thinner then, a lot less grey hairs, far more palatable. And Steve
Not as handsome.
and I stop it, Steve. But as you can see, there are some fantastic faces here involved with Fresco Football, and I am very excited to do this project with you boys. It has been a long time coming. We've been discussing it for a while. We have Kim Kothari of Sky Sports. We have Hugh Wizzy, the Hugh Wizzy of Arsenal fame, and so many other things. And his hair's a lot shorter than some people may remember it, even though it is
No, it's all there. It's just coloured behind.
And we have esteemed company, Mr. Stephen. I'm not going to butcher your name because I always struggle with it. I'll be very honest. Do you want to do it, Steve? McKinnon.
Oh man, I'm curious.
McKinney.
McKinney.
There you go. We've got that. Let's get it.
I've got bored of correcting people. I'm too old for that now.
Oh, no,
when I was younger, in my 20s, I was like, no.
I feel that pain every time I go on to TalkSport and I always say my name wrong. It's not like I've been doing it with them for 3 years. But
yours is not that hard. Yours is quite phonetical, isn't it?
Exactly. That's what I say.
I'm not going to say it now. I'll get it wrong, obviously, but in my head, it's like it's Beneventi.
Beneventi, yeah. Beneventi. But it's the first. Everyone calls me Lewis, and it really annoys me. So that's not my name.
It's the first name they get wrong. Imagine that.
Yeah, first name and the second. They get both wrong.
What is your first name?
It's Louis. You've not Kim. You've known me long enough.
That's not that different from Lewis, is it? It's spelled exactly the same.
Right, kind.
Sorry, that's just a preference. That's not even your name.
We're not. Let's not start on a bad foot. Okay.
Sorry.
Right, let's go there. But, ladies and gentlemen, this is Fresco. This is a brand new football collective, should we say? We have some other faces involved with the project, which we're very excited to introduce you to. But I think the best way to describe it is we just got bored of a lot of the stuff that's out there on the internet, and we just want to talk about the football. So, we're going to do that. Obviously, very top six centric. We'll be very honest. No one wants to know about Burnley. All right, it's thereabouts. If you've been to Turf Moor, you don't go back there. All right, it's impossible to get to. It's a pointless place. But everyone wants to go to London. They want to go to Manchester. They want to go to Liverpool. Because they want to go see the Beatles, Oasis, Blur, maybe some football, other bits as well. But, it is what it is. And we thought we'd use this opportunity to discuss the opening of the Premier League for 25-26. And big transfers have obviously happened. And, of course, we're going to do our predictions, but not like predictions, because Hughes raised a very good point as predictions are quite pointless, Hugh. That's what you were saying earlier, wasn't it?
You do the predictions, man. Come on. We want some clippable content, don't we?
Well, I think we should kind of go through the table. Let's go through the top 6 and see how everyone's going to sit, I think. Because I apparently, according to Kim and Hugh, Steve, have a very outlandish opinion in regards to who I think is going to win the league. But I
can guess. I can imagine.
It's Southampton. They're not even in the league, but we'll come back to it anyway. But I do think we should probably talk about the people that aren't here. And Kim's basically going to fill in for those de facto people, because obviously there's going to be no one here to defend them otherwise, and go through the cases. And obviously we have no Manchester United representative currently. We have no Tottenham representative currently sat in this space with us, and we have no Liverpool representative. But we have all the other important clubs. So, Kim, you're going to be our de facto sort of representative for those guys as the accredited and massively, massively unbiased journalist that you are with Sky Sports. And we're going to go through it. So should we start with United, boys? I mean, roughly after the season they had at the end last year, thinking that they might go on and win it, to then have Spurs and their 17-year trophy drought in the Europa League final. How do you think United are going to do this season? I've got a funny feeling they actually might do quite well.
Depends what you mean by quite well for United. Yeah.
Expectations of the money.
Define quite well.
I think should United sign Carlos Baleba, they are going to finish in the Europa League spots, definitely, but they're going to be pushing significantly for Champions League.
No,
I don't agree with that at all.
I think that's a big shout. That is a big shout. That's probably our first clip right there.
Yeah.
Credibility already
That
gone.
one really
Cheers,
could
Louis.
come back to bite you. You've gone big early. I like it.
Right. I'm basing it. I think Ruben Amorim is a really good coach, and I'm a sucker for a three at the back. I think that season under Antonio Conte was probably my favourite ever season watching Chelsea, because I could talk about 04, 05 and 05, 06, but I was still wearing nappies then. Realistically, I was like 8, so I don't really get to appreciate it. You know, it's like when you watch like a film for the first time and you think it's rubbish, but then you realise it after watching it the second time, a few months later, you see those different nuances and appreciate it more. I think the 16-17 season for Chelsea showcased, if a side is basically in free fall and they're starting to move the right direction and they have the assets in place with one game a week, I do think United have the capability for Amorim to kind of really instill how he wants to play his football with the players that they have there, which will also mean that the process will speed up in terms of where they want to be. Obviously, that's what Rashford was saying in the interview as well. You know, that United haven't had a clear structure and vision for years. Now it's kind of maybe potentially going to be heading in that direction. And with the tools they have for a 3-4-3 system, if they sign Baleba, which is most likely going to happen by the end of the window, not only will they have all the tools, they also will have the depth as well in key positions. And I just think that will mean it really sets them up.
I think the vision is muddled again, just like it has been since Ferguson left. It doesn't really make any sense to me. Their transfer policy doesn't make sense at all. You talked there about like the three at the back, right? And that took a long time for players to adapt to, and it took a long time for them to get like Diallo trying to play right wing back. It took a long time, but they haven't sorted out their defence at all. They've done what Man United always do, and they've just spent money on attackers, and they've spent probably too much money on players with big names. It's a very, very confused transfer policy. If you really want to have trust in Amorim, it doesn't really make sense that they've just bought a new front three. Why? That wasn't really the problem. Yeah, they had problems with Rasmus Højlund not scoring goals. But that wasn't really the main issue. They were incredibly easy to break through, and they're going to be incredibly easy to break through again because they haven't actually changed the things that need changing. They've still got a goalkeeper in there who's probably not of the quality that you'd expect of a Man United goalkeeper. They've still got centre-backs in there who, again, probably are not of the quality of players who are going to be pushing for the top four. And the players that they have bought, okay, like Mbeumo is a good player. He's a solid player. Yeah. Mateus Cunha, and I'm happy for this to get clipped up and used against me if it happens in the future. But I'm very, very confident that is an absolute disaster waiting to happen. Because you look at him and you look at the profile of the player he is, and you look at his, whatever you want to say about his off-field antics or the kind of player he is. He was obviously very, very frustrated at Wolves. He felt like he was much better than everyone else, which he probably was. He let that frustration boil over many times. Got sent off, I think, 2 or 3 times last season. Had fights after the game. It's not going to be that much different at United. He's probably extremely excited to be playing for a club that, in his eyes, when he's growing up, is one of the biggest clubs in the world. He's going to get there and realise that the quality is nowhere near as good as he thinks it is. It's not going to work out.
Brutal takedown there. I tend to agree as well. They'll be better probably than 15 because it's incredibly low by their standards. But I don't think these signings are going to elevate them to the level that they need to be at. Like ultimately, Mbeumo and Mateus Cunha, they're not really Champions League footballers. They've been close to, but they haven't had that. It's like asking them to drag Manchester United up into 4th or 3rd or 2nd. Like, they haven't been there at any point in their careers. And I think it's a big ask for suddenly these guys to leap above so many more clubs who aren't covered in this malaise, that's sort of swept over United for an awful long time now. And Sesko, he's just not a prolific goal scorer, a really talented one, but he's still very much potential as well. And they've been down that route so many times. And I don't know, he could be the latest to get, once again, just swept up in Old Trafford in the sink. I could be wrong, man, but I don't know. I don't look at the wing backs of high quality either. I think they're good players, but a lot of Conference League level footballers there. I'm incredibly biased. Like United's suffering brings me immense joy. Like I can't deny that. But I'm trying to step back and think. Well, is Brian Mbeumo going to turn them into a Champions League side? Like he's a really good player, but I don't think so. Like. I'm not sure he's that level all of a sudden to, catapult United that high up. The midfield issues, well, obviously, Carlos Baleba comes in, it's massive. He's a huge improvement for their midfield, but still, I don't think there's necessarily suddenly an elite level midfield. I don't think they copy Mainoo, a footballer. Ugarte, I don't know, he's good, he's all right, but once again, I still think he's a mid-table level Premier League player. Bruno Fernandes, very good, correct chance creator, but still chaotic and maybe won't have the control to be a Champions League level top 4 kind of midfielder where United want to be. I don't know. I think there's question marks there still, and I think the biggest problem United have got is that they don't really know who they are anymore, and I think they're chasing something that they can't really reach these days. And I don't think they can go from 15th to 4th. I just don't see that at all. I think it's going to be mid-table, upper mid-table, maybe 8th or something like that. I don't know, but I think it's a big ask, mate.
Do you think Amarim's going to get given the opportunity to do what he can though? Because based on what you're saying, I can't see Ruben Amorim lasting the season based on how United are operating. It's just a case of for me. I think that I get what you're saying, by the way, about the fact that the quality of players maybe isn't there. I understand that, but I'd argue that they've showcased over an extended period that they are good enough to sort of make that next step up, and also with the focus of there's just training. It's literally, there is no Champions League, there's no Conference League, there's no Europa League. They are simply going to be playing on a Saturday or a Sunday, and that's it. So I'd argue that surely that with that balance of basically rigorous training, that would push them further up the league. No, just because it means that it could push them even further.
I'd say yes, but when you say further up the league, not much further up the league. I'm thinking 12th personally. 10th to 12th would be a good season for Manchester United. They have done nothing, like Kim said, to the back three. You're looking at bringing probably Aiden Heaven's going to be getting a lot more minutes this season, which in itself is an unknown. Your front three, which is extortionate money you were spending when you were sacking tea ladies 2 minutes ago, is a risk on all three fronts. They're complete unknown. Sesko's, he's everybody's favourite potential superstar. But, it's a big ask. It's a big club and the expectations are high. So I do think actually he'll be given more favour than anything. And it would take a fan revolt to get rid of him, because I think the idea now is that you buy into a project and you just sit with the project until it works. You keep rolling the dice instead of potentially falling into the trap which they have done before, which is supplying countless managers with new tools and then having to redo the whole thing. And it takes time because contracts they're on are outrageous. So it's exciting probably for fans to hear the names Cunha and Bueno and Šeško, but the midfield looks exactly the same. Essentially, are you in effect going to be replacing a lot of the time that Diallo would spend on the pitch with another unknown? I don't know whether they're not replacing some of the best bits that they got from last season with risks, but
expensive risks as well.
Yeah.
I would say almost nothing they do makes any sense and hasn't for just such a long time. Like, you bring in these new managers, you pay an extortionate amount of money to sack a manager, then you pay an extortionate amount of money to bring a manager in, and then in his first main summer transfer window, instead of building a team, you do what you've done for the last 15 years, which is just buy personalities. They just buy players. They've never tried to build a team. They just buy players and then try and shoehorn them into whatever manager is there at the time. That's not how a big club operates. That's not how any of the other clubs operate. It's not how Mikel Arteta has made Arsenal go from fairly average to title challengers. It's not how Jurgen Klopp did it. But they seem to think, and I don't understand if it's all just driven by commercial revenue, where they think, let's just buy this player because he'll sell a lot of shirts or he seems like a fun name to have. It just seems like a kid playing FIFA career mode. Like, I can't be arsed sorting out the defence. We don't need a new keeper. Let's get a new striker. Let's get 2 quick wingers. Let's get a tricky Brazilian. None of it actually makes any sense. And as you said, as a United fan, you would be excited. It makes sense to be excited about these names you've seen score 20 goals in the Premier League. You've seen Cunha bang them in from 40 yards. No one's going to be unhappy when they come to the club. But the transfer policy doesn't make any sense if they want to actually improve and become a serious team.
I do think, just to counter it slightly, if they were to bring in a midfielder like Belieber, or a top class ball playing centre back to, potentially move on Harry Maguire or help any euro a bit more, then maybe we're moving somewhere. But I don't think that's going to happen. So yeah, I'd say mid-table is a good season again. Even though they do have all the time in the world and no European football, it's a long way to the top.
I think the Amarin thing as well, it touches on something I feel in general that we presume he's a great manager, but he might be, but we don't think there's any proof of that yet. And doing well in the Portuguese league, in the way that players can do well in different leagues, I think the best managers do tend to flock towards the bigger leagues, and there's no guarantee that Amarim is any better than most of the managers already in the Premier League, and that and I think ultimately he could be a great manager, but he could just be one of many in the Premier League, and his ideas might not be any more ingenious. And it could be that a lot of managers would have similar success over, this is a really extreme example. It's like how Brendan Rodgers, a very good Premier League manager, just he turned Celtic into an absolute machine. And obviously the Portuguese league is better than the Scottish league, but the point is, like, a very competent manager go way above the quality of that league. Won everything, trebles, constantly because he knew what he's doing. I guess the point I'm making is he despite success, left the Premier League. Is Amram any better, than most of the managers already in the league? Enough to elevate United, a club of that stature, to the level that they used to be? Like, I don't know. Has he got the strength of personality? He's still quite young. I think he might be younger than me. To lift up a club of that grandeur himself. And turn players who have been mid-table, talents suddenly into a Champions League level forwards. I don't know. I think there's massive question marks all over, And I think that from the United fans that I know, a lot of them were questioning some of his decision making last season as well. Even though liking them, they were still confused about some of his decisions. So I don't know. I think there's question marks everywhere, to be honest. And I think as good as he's done in Portugal, there's no guarantee that he's going to turn it around because. Yeah, even the quality is harder for players to step up, and I think it's harder for managers as well to step up into the Premier League because the best of the best are there. There's a lot of brilliant managers doing great things, and some of them might not ever win a trophy. Look how good Oliver Glasner is, and he's just got Palace to that, but he's a phenomenal manager, and he's not even at a big four, top six, big six club. So is he better than him, Amarim? So I don't know. I think there's question marks everywhere, and as I said, I love it. So.
Well, we'll leave you guys to decide where you think United division is. Are we being too harsh? That's the question I want to know.
Not harsh enough.
Absolutely not.
Not harsh enough.
Not after last season's performances, no.
Oh, no.
No, actually, bang on. Look, they deserve everything. They got United 15th, man. Come on. That's shocking.
It is mental, isn't it? But the fact that we're thinking that they could be going down 10th or 12th, that is spectacular. We'll move on. Let's obviously look at the other contenders in Spurs. I do think after their performance in the Super Cup, I was pleasantly surprised, and it pains me to say that, by the way. But I think I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that there was no chaos in that Spurs team. It was very much a side which was defensively solid and looking sort of to maybe set a foundation heading into a new season. Is Thomas Frank going to be enough to sort of see them push on, or are we going to be seeing a similar situation to what we saw at United? Hugh was smiling that whole time. Go on, Hugh.
I've got United 12th and Tottenham 11th.
Just shifted up a little bit, the pair of them. From terrible to mediocre.
I don't think they're as good as people think they are. And I think that was shown in the second half of that game we watched yesterday. The introduction of Fabian Ruiz alone was enough to turn the game completely on its head, to change exactly what he was trying to do. And look, it looks like they're going to be quite vulnerable from long balls. He's going to definitely be pushing it hard line with three at the back for a lot of the game. There are teams that will expose them. And I think that's where Tottenham are. They are definitely progressing, but they are a better cup team. And that probably suits Thomas Frank, in my opinion, a bit more. So it's not all doom and gloom with Tottenham. They've, if anything, got some credit in the bank with that Europa League win. As much as that hurts, it could have been a lot worse last night, really, the last few minutes. So, yeah, I think more an understrength PSG side who are just getting back to pre-season a week ago and, will kick into gear soon themselves and show they're a different class. But, look, I feel like missing Son, not just him as a player, because I don't think he was that important or key as he has been in previous years. Just around the dressing room, they're going to need to find some more leaders, some more people to lean on in those times who are, guaranteed goals. Huge loss. And I'm not totally convinced that they are done with losing players as well. So we'll see where we are at the end of the window.
I think they'll finish in the top 6. I think they'll be much better. I think they've got a better. I didn't want Postecoglou to get sacked. I thought that was unbelievably harsh after he'd ended their trophy drought. And I think no one has. I actually don't think any manager or any team has ever suffered an injury crisis like they did last year for that long period of time. It was almost unheard of. And that's not to make excuses. Yeah, he should have obviously been more sensible. But I do think that Frank is probably similar in that way, in that he knows how to play attacking football. You saw that yesterday, especially with the wingers. Yeah, they were very pragmatic, but they are coming up against PSG, right? Anyone who comes up against PSG at the moment is just terrified of them. That's kind of how it works. And Spurs obviously had a bit of an inferiority complex going into that game, which is why they basically tried to just play how they played. It worked for 82 minutes of the game. And then, as you say, you brought on Fabian Ruiz, Dembele's gone over to the right, and they're just going to do that to anyone. But I think the business that they've done is good. And I think it's kind of the opposite to what United have done, whereas United have gone for personalities, but they've gone for players who, okay, maybe Mohamed Kudus, you're thinking is a little bit like that, but not really. There wasn't much noise about him. I know that last January, some teams were talking about signing him, but since then it all went very quiet, and they've thought he can fit our squad really well. If they get Eberechi Eze as well, which is looking like that is progressing a little bit, I think that's really good business. And I think if Frank can get the best out of Richarlison, who looked very good yesterday, to be fair, and get the best out of Solanke, I think that they've reinforced enough at the back that, barring injuries, I think they can do a lot better this year.
Sabino linked as well. So, I mean, I'd be genuinely gutted about it. I think he's a cracking talent. And he'd be, I think he'd suit Spurs as well. I don't know. There's one of those teams that's finished somewhere between 6th and 12th, 13th. There's quite a few, depending on the season and who steps up and who doesn't. I like Thomas Frank. I think he's a really good manager. Going back to what I said, I think the Premier League's got a lot of very good managers, and he's one of them. They could do well. Kudus is a good signing. I don't think he's a great player, but I think he's good. I think he's fun to watch. They'll enjoy him there. Eze would be a cracking signing. Actually, I'd be surprised if Eze rocked up at Spurs. Actually, personally, I don't know. I don't think there's the guarantee of anything that he wants there, really, personally. But Arsenal obviously would have been glorious for him, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. It'd be great for Spurs. I don't know how good it'd be for Eze, but obviously it'd come with a nice pay rise, I guess. So fair enough.
Where would
he fit now? Aren't they? They're in the Champions League. They're in the Champions League, and you can still be a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah, for 1 year they're in the Champions League, and they're not going to be in the year after that. I guarantee you. So, I don't know. It depends. You play Champions League football for a year. Maybe I'm wrong, but who's really got Spurs fourth? It feels a massive leap of faith to go from where they are to fourth.
I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility, though. With the same squad that they've got now, they finished 5th the year before, which would have got them Champions League football last year. I know last year was a disaster. And where did they finish? 17th in the end? 16th, 17th? 17th, I think. Yeah. But okay, that looks terrible on paper, but let's be honest, the last 3 months, all they were doing was resting their players for the Europa League, which they did end up winning. So I don't think it's that much of a stretch. If you take last year as an outlier, the same squad finished in what would have been a Champions League spot next year, and they've improved it, and they've arguably got a slightly more pragmatic manager. I think last year confuses it a little bit.
Yeah, but losing Son as well,
the injuries,
massive loss of Son. The experience.
He was terrible last year, though. He just wasn't that great. He lost all of his pace. He wasn't all that last year. I don't think it's a huge miss.
I think it's big for impact. Same with Kane. All the responsibility of being that leader or that guy that you turn to is was on Son's shoulders, and who does that go to now? Who is the main man?
The fact that Christian Romero is a captain, I think, is...
It's definitely not Kudus. He's
you're right.
Like Stephen was saying, he's great to watch. But end product-wise, he's probably going to frustrate you.
Yeah, I don't think he's an elite-level footballer, Kudus. I think, obviously, technically, he's an elite footballer, but I don't see him, once again, as that level of player where they're always going to be just below the Champions League level. I've gone down for about 7th, 8th, but, I think that they're obviously very good.
We've also got to take into consideration Maddison. It's just
yes,
someone
That's a
we haven't
shame.
been able to replace. We're still talking about Gibbs White 2 months after it was supposed to be done. So I'm not sure that they're exactly where they want to be, even.
Marinakis ruining Spurs' season there.
that was hilarious. To be fair, like when Morgan Gibbs White did that announcement or that contract extension,
Blink
Mr.
twice,
Marinakis, yeah, literally it was a hostage video.
They must have known. They must have known
Mr.
that looked
Marinakis.
weird. That was like a parody. I don't know how someone in the social media department didn't say like.
He knew he was doing Marinakis. That was a show of strength, man. That was a public show of strength to the world.
So cringe on it.
Yeah,
it's
sort of terrifying at the same time.
Yeah,
He got a knock on his door, didn't he?
You would not say no to Marinakis if he was angry with you. You just want to get out of that room as fast as possible. Like he is quite terrifying. I look at him as like that when he was on the pitch having a go at Nuno last season. But like, what would you do in that situation? Like, this man is clearly a lunatic. Like, how do you deal with that? Like,
He's a Sopranos character, isn't
he? Yeah, he is. He'd fit right in. He looks like my cousin. But aside from that, it's kind of a case of I do think Kudus just looking at that team yesterday with Kudus is pretty much the only creative outlet. Like I said, Madison's going to be a massive miss. No Gibbs White because he's been held hostage at Nottingham Forest apparently. Eze might go. I mean, I can't see Palace letting go of Eze and Gurhey this close to the transfer deadline with the European football stuff now sorted to some degree. I just can't see that happening. So it'd be really interesting to see what happens there. But I've got them 7th, 6th, 7th. I just can't see them really mounting anything because they're going to be so lackluster going forward. Richarlison and Solanke, your two strikers.
They need Kulusevski back, don't they, as well? When's he out until? I don't know. It's a while, isn't it? I think. Is it reasonably serious injury? Because that's obviously a big bloke, Kulusevski, with his quality. Yeah, Savino would make a difference to fair going forward for them if they get him.
Is he as good as people sort of made him out to be when he came from Girona, or is he still quite a raw player?
Yeah, both. I think both things, to be honest. He's our best creator last season. You dive into the stats and all that kind of stuff. You can see it with your eyes as well. But no one's better at carrying the ball at the pitch in the league than him. Like, in terms of stats last season, he's ridiculously good at that, and created so many chances. Most assists for City last season as well, which is that's a big achievement. Even though we were poor, it's still a really impressive achievement. Honestly, I think he got about 10 assists in the end, but he just didn't score many. Like, if he'd scored about 5 or 6, people would be a lot more excited about him. He was just really poor in front of goal, only 1 or 2 goals. So I regret Savino. I think he's a really talented player. He's just he was unfortunate to come into the worst City side in a decade, So I think if he was doing that thing where we were at our best 5 years ago and he was coming on every now and then for Mahrez or whatever, and everyone was like, this kid's really talented, and he'd be getting the 3rd and 4th goal as City were cruising games, and his confidence would have been fine, but he was having to, sort of drag an old City side on his back over the winter, and I think it started to take his toll a bit. But I really like him. I think he's a cracking player, and I think he'd do really well at Spurs if they got him. So I hope he doesn't go.
He's a good player. He's a good player. His final product is poor, and I think if you're letting him go for no one, there's no point. But if you're letting him go and you're bringing in Rodrigo, it's just like such an improvement. It's just a no-brainer. I mean, we've just rejected £60 million from Spurs, so they'll probably up it to like 70 million. Hopefully, Rodrigo is probably going to cost around 80 million. £10
to Rodrigo to play in Savino's position.
You'd probably have to put Rodrigo on the left, I guess, and hope that Phil Foden can regain his form on the right hand side. But you have any opportunity at getting Rodrigo, you just have to go for it. Any of those Real Madrid players, you just have to go for him. They're just born winners. And he's so exciting. He's so good. He can play off both sides. And he's not much older than Savino. What's Savino, 21, 22?
21, I think he is. Savino.
21, I think. Rodrigo's only 24. It's not like we're going for a super established player. He's still a young player who can improve. And I just think Savino going for no one is ridiculous, because then you're left with just Doku and Oscar Bob as the out-and-out wingers. But if you're bringing in Rodrigo as well, it's a no-brainer for me. It's good business.
Rodrigo just takes it to another level. It
does.
Mental.
But I'm not going to lie, Stephen. You must have seen Mansour's speech at the end of season speech, and the interviewer was like, "Oh, who are you most excited about seeing next year?" And he just smirked and said, "I've got something special planned." I think
was
it's
this plan that Savinho would be sold to Spurs late and then we'd go for Rodrigo?
No, I think his plan was always to get Rodrigo in. I think that was the plan. Yeah, because there's been links from before the transfer window even opened.
Maybe it was Donnarumma. Maybe it was that. We're jumping out the city here, I know, but
sorry.
I mean,
do you want to ask what you think of that as well? Actually,
yeah. Well, I mean, we'll come to City in a minute because there is a lot to talk about there. But we should probably move on now to Hughes' team because that is who I've got to finish fourth.
Why are we doing that? Why do we do that?
Because look, I mean, we can talk about Liverpool, but I mean, Liverpool's going to be well, no, third, fourth. I think it's going to be Chelsea and Arsenal's interchangeable in my opinion. Top four. Right. What you're there going to win the league?
1 to 20.
You got your striker now. Well, that's it. Game on.
If we're fourth by the end this time next year, then it's not gone well, and
it's gone at that point.
It may have to roll. Yeah, I don't know how we move from there, but look, big year, isn't it? So huge expectations, more huge money being spent, striker bought, and a whole bunch of others. I do think that the team has the potential to play differently this season, where last season it was quite boring watching, if I'm honest. Very sort of risk-averse football, and it's no sort of secret that was heavily reliant at times on set pieces, but he obviously works on a game of numbers, Arteta, and he is obviously quite, anally retentive, and it does work more often than not. So I'm quite happy about where we are in terms of, being involved in the conversation, but obviously the frustrations are growing because no actual trophies have arrived, and time is ticking, and money has, he spent more money than Wenger has in 23 years, mate. You've got to win something now, really. Yeah. So,
do you think you've got what you need?
Never, as an Arsenal fan, have I gone through a transfer window and completed it feeling like I have, or the club have what we need. No, never, not once.
What do you think you're missing?
1 or 2 short the whole time. I'm not convinced about left back. I'm not convinced about left wing. We have, the opportunity, I think, to bring in a ready-made, fits like a glove attacking midfielder in Eze, and are potentially missing out on Rodrigo. That.
He'd be amazing for you, wouldn't he? He'd be the first missing piece, Rodrigo on the left.
The names, we can't pretend that the names aren't out there. They don't exist, because they do. And we have clearly made a decision, I think, in re-signing Ranieri to give him more game time, and potentially are using Madueke on both sides as opposed to just being Saka's cover. Looks like he's going to be predominantly playing on the left-hand side, because I actually haven't seen him play on the right yet in all 3 of the pre-season games where he's featured. So, look, again, there are untested, unproven risks being taken here. Gyökeres, I feel, is a big risk. Could go one of either ways. He is, famous for scoring so many goals, but so are so many other players who come to this Premier League, and their quality just drops by like 30% immediately in sort of all areas. Never mind, he doesn't really look in shape. He's going to have to adjust to new environment and whatnot, and it may well take a minute for him to hit the ground running. However, there is the perfect narrative up for grabs here, with Manchester United and Amram there for the taking. So that would buy him some time, a goal there. But our fixture list is shocking from the start, really tough, with, I think, what I would say is probably 3 of the top expected 6 in the first few games. And, this could go left very quickly. I still think that we're going to come second, if I'm honest, in my heart of hearts, just because of how much depth added Liverpool have managed to do in terms of the first team. And I'm not sure that Arsenal have done the same. The Zubimendi deal, I think, is an immediate starter, really does improve us. I think he will really probably be our best signing. Gyökeres, Madueke, I can actually see them not playing as much as people think.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Havertz is really, he's got not only a sort of grudge there now, but he's got the opportunity to really make his name and stake his claim. And the same goes for whoever actually is here, out of Martinelli and Trossard, because Madueke, again, it could go one or two ways. So, are we ready? No, essentially, I'm not sure we are. We're still playing a midfielder at left back. The left back who we do have is sort of a centre back cover. That if a centre back does drop, we're going to need a left back. So, still stuff to do. But I think the problem is really we're not selling players. We're not capable. Like we were talking off camera about Liverpool have made 150 plus million from player sales. Arsenal are pushing 6 million so far, and we'll have to improve. Yeah. I mean, we're really good at cancelling contracts and paying you off, but as far as actually getting money from players leaving, it's been a real struggle. So, that will have to improve, and I think that's one of the ways that Andrea Berta will have to be judged, really, because it's all well and good getting players that want to come to the club desperately over the line, or paying release clauses or whatever. I don't know how much involvement he really has in Christian Norgard and Noni Madueke. Like, how much about those players does he really know before coming to the club? So it will really be about the departures. And as of yet, as nothing else has been done, I do feel we're going to be a bit short. So yeah, I don't want to go out, on a limb and say, oh, this is the year, because I've done that like 23 times. It's not worked. Second is about all I'll go. But if we were to fall to like your predicted fourth, I would actually say, okay, it's time for a change, because you can only roll the dice so many times without it just being silly now.
He does. I feel like Arteta does come up with some ludicrous stuff, which I probably doesn't help. But my prediction anyway, like sort of saying stuff like best team in the Champions League and all that ridiculous stuff. Called win, getting like a light bulb out in a team talk. It does feel. Someone I saw on Twitter and it kind of just sticks. I can't ever unsee it now. It does feel very Spanish David Brent, and I feel that's kind of slowly starting to rub people the wrong way now. I guess sort of like where it was really unifying at first.
Frustrations are building. They are. Frustrations are building. People are, he has had a lot of good credit, and to be fair, I think he's done a lot of great work in terms of changing the way that people see the club. Definitely when you talk to players about facing Arsenal, they're super impressed, and they have for quite a long time seen them as a pushover. So to have done that, there is something to be credited for. It's the frustration that is building because of the lack of trophies that ultimately is going to be the straw that breaks this camel's back. And he's potentially dying on a couple of hills where decisions are not quite making sense. But I still do have a lot of time for him. I think, these cringeworthy moments that we're talking about are moments. And I do believe in moments. You have to be a creator of moments for people to really believe in the vision. And we're quite a cringeworthy club, if I'm honest. We do.
Really? I hadn't noticed.
I mean, I've watched Declan Rice rapping the other day. I'm thinking, good God, is Tony Adams actually watching? Does he know? He's comparing himself to this kid. Anyhow.
Maybe he was an MC. We never knew about Tony Adams' past, you know what
I mean?
Yeah. He should have seen him on Strictly. I think that was enough.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
I would safely say that Arsenal, again, will be challenging. So I think that would be enough of a prediction, It could go either way. You never know.
It feels to me like Arsenal's biggest issue the last few years is probably just just really lazy, but like proper X factor up front. We talked a lot about Arsenal's defence. Everyone knows how good it is. The best defensive side in the league, and they smother you that way. Absolutely phenomenal defensively. I was reading something the other day actually about the quality of shots created, and Arsenal are very mid-table on that in terms of they don't create an awful lot of high quality chances. They're literally down in the middle below Brighton and slightly above West Ham in terms of great chances created and so on. So they do lack a little bit of brilliance up top, really. And then you start to wonder, is Noni and Gyökeres going to really change that? I don't know if they are going to move the needle that much. And I actually agree with you. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Gyökeres. I think if you're being generous to him, he does really well. I think it's like 20 goals or something like that. But I still don't know if that moves the needle in the way that Arsenal need it to. Ultimately, I can imagine Havertz getting very similar level to that if he plays every single week as well. And eventually you're going to need a little bit some a little bit more than that potentially, you know, to really push Arsenal from that second place spot to first. And Nani looks like he wants to be on the right. So I feel like he's going to go on the left, sure, but I'm not sure he's the Saka on the left that Arsenal probably need to add a little bit of magic. And if you talk about someone like Eze, he would have been great, you know, in terms of a little bit of flamboyance there and so on. I just think Arsenal, look at him. I think they're a good side, and they've made some very good side, obviously. And they made some good signings, but I don't know if they're going to be necessarily much better. Zubimendi, really good. He'll bring a lot of control, and really smart passer and progress the play really nicely. Link up well with Rice and Odegaard. I don't think they're really lacking that much that further back the pitch. You know, it'll help them a little bit, but Arsenal haven't struggled for possession. They haven't struggled for structure and shape, and it's just ahead of that. I don't know if they will be able to take that leap, and I can see arguments why they'll maybe be steely enough to finish first. Or I can see why someone would argue that they could be down in fourth because it might get too much after years of being the bridesmaid. You know, if they have a tough start, it might be very hard to quickly play catch up, basically. So, I've got second or third for me. I don't think they'll drop to fourth, but I don't see the league being won by Arsenal because I just don't know. I don't think they have that X factor up top, and I think that does matter. I think you do need, Saka is obviously, he's brilliant. I think that's sort of it, really, in terms of geniuses that teams fear, and I don't think Gyökeres or Nani are going to really change that personally.
I think second or third as well.
Yeah.
I don't want to say too much because I've just developed quite a nice relationship with Arsenal, but I do think that there's, and I do want to be invited back, but there's something missing, and I don't think it's to do with the players on the pitch. I don't think they'll ever win the league with the current setup that they've got at the moment. I think they would have if they were going to.
I don't want to say anything too negative, Arsenal, but the manager's the problem.
No, I don't even. The thing is, I don't even necessarily know if it's the manager. I think it's just a combination of all these different factors, and I think it's unlikely for them to have not won the league yet in the last 3 years when they finished second, and now all of the teams have spent more money. All of the teams will be better than they were last year, including Chelsea, including Spurs. The teams below them will be harder to beat as well. I can't see them finishing top of the league. I think they would have if they were going to.
I think it's going to be a very interesting season. Noni Madueke is going to drive you insane, Hugh, because he's going to have these moments where he's going to be absolutely spectacular, and then he's just going to fall off a cliff for like 6 weeks, and then he'll turn up.
Ultimately, again. Right, my issue will never be with Noni Madueke because, it's not his fault that he was signed. And I don't think that it's unfair to say that, most people would have expected a left winger, a naturalised left winger to have been brought in. And with that being done already, they would have been fine with Madueke being cover. I'm sure that they've sold this kid a dream as well, that he can be developed in a manner that will ensure that he's got an international career and whatnot. So I'm just not surprised that we're one short as we go into the season anyway. I'll say that much.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see how things develop. I do think that Arsenal have really got to win something this season. I think they're under the most pressure. Purely because as soon as Spurs won that Europa League and the bridesmaids chat continued, it just puts them under the pressure that Spurs have been under for such a long time to win something.
You can see it in Arteta's face. You can genuinely see it. Like his demeanor's changed so much from 3 years ago. I do, but I think that maybe I'm projecting there. My feelings.
I mean that you can say that that's something that he should be credited with as well. The fact that the club are in a position now where people really do expect them to win a major trophy. That is something.
He's done an unbelievable job. Even if they don't win the Premier League, he's done an unbelievable job.
Yeah, and I actually think that that's okay. There's nothing to be. There's no shame in that.
I don't think you can say he's a crap manager because they didn't win the Prem. He's completely revitalised the whole club. Let's be honest. I mean, I used to go to City away at Arsenal, 5-6 years ago before Arteta came in. And no disrespect to Arsenal fans, but the stadium was literally half full. Now I live in Islington. Now you can't walk 2 seconds without seeing an Arsenal shirt. He's completely revitalised that club. He's got everyone on side, and that is purely down to him. So whether he wins the league or not, he's done a very good job. I just think that either he or something there is just missing. That just means that they won't get their hands on the trophy. But that doesn't mean that we need to like tweet like, oh yeah, look like he's a loser. Do you know what I mean? Like we like to do that, don't we? At the moment, like if someone doesn't win anything, they're awful, and everything they've ever done is a failure. He's been a massive success, but he probably, in my opinion, just won't lift a major trophy, and that's fine.
It's going to be interesting to see how that season pans out for Arsenal for me. But we'll move on quickly because I know Kim, you've got to go soon.
Yeah, I've got a chat.
So let's glaze over Chelsea because obviously Chelsea's going to be spectacular. World champions, beat PSG 3-0, showed how it's done. Just won the Visit Malta Trophy twice in one weekend.
Huge.
Just won the what?
You heard? The Visit Malta Trophy. It's the
Champions of the Visit Malta Trophy. You'll never sing that.
Exactly. Played by Leverkusen, AC Milan.
You going to Malta now? Yeah, that's why Kim's off, aren't you, mate? You got to go. Malta,
Malta, mate.
But I mean, look, Chelsea. I think is going to be interesting, but we'll come back to that when Kim's gone. Let's talk about City because I don't know if you could tell, but Kim is a City fan with the light blue shirt, Bohemian shirt on, and the Mancunian accent.
Well, the unbiasing just couldn't hide it. It just seeped through.
And the Oasis on the front. So, Steve, Kim, you two take the lead on this. City season, I've got you guys to win it. But where do you have yourselves in this process under Pep Guardiola? And is it the final season of his contract as well?
No, there's another after this.
Okay, well, there you go then. So the penultimate year of his contract.
I could make arguments somewhere between first and fourth. Genuinely good. I'm a positive. I'm a largely positive City fan. Honestly, I feel like the season depends on Rodri. There's a big asterisk around City anyway, but there's a big asterisk on our actual form on the pitch as well. Like genuinely, if Rodri plays 75% of the games, I think we win the league. I think he's that level of difference to City. If he doesn't, I think we could end up third or fourth again. I think the signings we've made are really exciting. There's a tendency to learn maybe that Guardiola might still lean on some of the older players like Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, Akanji, and so on. But I think Shirky's a phenomenally gifted footballer, and look, the talent that De Bruyne had, you can't replicate that. But when you lose someone that special, you need to bring someone in who's going to really excite you, like truly just add a little bit of difference, and someone who takes responsibility. And everything I've seen so far, just friendlies, of course, of Shirky in a City shirt. That man doesn't shirk the ball. He doesn't. He's a phenomenally gifted player, and I can't wait to see him. And Nate Nori is, it's a left back. Finally, we've needed one for ages. I like him. Tijana Reinders looks phenomenally good as well. I'm very excited by him. One of the best midfielders in Serie A last season. He's going to be bring the dynamism that we've lacked. With Bernardo and Kovacic and Gundogan. Kovacic maybe less so because he's got a bit more physicality, but they've got the smarts but not got the physicality. And I think Reinders and will change that. And there's still question marks in some positions. Namely right back. Nunes is Guardiola's latest invention at right back, and we've got Rico Lewis. Other than that, not the strongest collection there. But I think the City, I think largely their problems last season were down to a little bit of quality, of course, but mainly down to Rodri's injury, and then some players dropping out of form. Like if Foden hadn't disappeared, unfortunately, he did. I know it's a lot of question marks here, but I'm trying to, not excuses, trying to look what could change this season. If Rodri's available, I presume Foden plays better. If Shirky gets going, I presume Haaland scores more. Nori brings us more balance, and I think there's also a collective hunger, for what I can tell from the players and Guardiola in particular, to not be last season. City were diabolical at times last season, and I'm not saying that sounds dramatic, but we were one of the worst teams in the league from about October to January. We were so bad. It was. Thankfully, though, we did manage to turn around from January to the end of the season. We had the best form in the league. We still weren't great, but we had, we genuinely did. Liverpool, of course, switched off at one point, but we did. So I'm expecting, a vastly different City side to last year. We've brought in different coaches. Pep Linders has come in, the ex-Klopp right-hand man. So we'll be more aggressive, more dynamic. I don't know. I've got us. I think we could win the league. I think you'd be a fool to write off Guardiola 2 years in a row because that man doesn't like losing. Having said that, my biggest reservation is Rodri's fitness, and I think yeah, I could see if we finish second, to me, it's to Liverpool. I think they might be a more complete package right now, and it might be too many things to iron out. But yeah, first for me, if Rodri stays fit, second, third, fourth, if he doesn't. I think City fans, what I can see online, are a little bit too in their own heads and probably downplaying our quality a bit too much.
Yeah, I think Rodri's really important. I think Stones is also really important. It's quite unlikely that he's going to be able to stay fit, but he's probably that right back that we're looking for. I mean, Guardiola said it. That's why they haven't really gone for a right back, as they think Akanji, Stones and Nunes can do the job. Stones is by far the best out of those three, man of the match, in my opinion, in the Champions League final, playing in that position, but basically playing in midfield. I mean, I was speaking to you two about it off air. I think it was very clear in January that City were going to change how they play football. It was very clear that Guardiola was pretty much and is pretty much done with what has won us so many things, which is that intricate passing around the box, waiting for spaces to open up and threading the needle. That worked then. It clearly doesn't work now. And you can see with the signings of Marmoush, Cherki, Tijani Reinders, who is a midfielder but may as well be a striker, Ait-Nouri, who just loves bombing forward. We're obviously going to be way more direct. And the fact that we've got Pep Lijnders in there, who's learnt from Klopp, who was the absolute master of being direct in the Premier League, I think we're going to be a completely different proposition. And I think, yeah, Rodri's injury did hamper us last season, but I also think that teams found out how to play against us. I think there was a tiredness, there was probably a lack of desire, there was injury problems, and I also think that we became very, very predictable in the way we attack. All teams really needed to do was put 10 men behind the ball. If they had a couple of quick plays, they'd get us on the transition. And that's how we lost pretty much every single game from whenever it was, October to December, when we lost like 12 and 13, or we didn't win in 13 games, something insane like that. I think we'll be good next season. I think we'll be a different prospect. So it's really hard to say how quickly that's going to work and to what extent that's going to work. I do genuinely believe if the two transfers that happen in Edison out, Donnarumma in, and Savinho out, Rodrigo in, I genuinely would put as favourites for the league.
Donnarumma's mental in it, by the way.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, but it's kind of testament to what I'm saying here.
I can't deny it. I'm a bit weirded out by it. It's just so.
It's just so
left wing to Guardiola. Like, I don't even know how to. But
this is what I'm saying. We're obviously changing the style of play. Donnarumma's not good with his feet, and I think Guardiola's probably realised. And I think, let's be honest, right? Let's be completely honest about it. And it's hard to slag off a player like Edison, who's won so much for us and been such an integral part of the team. But there are lots and lots of Champions League games, especially when we went through that 4-year period of just losing ridiculous games against like Monaco and Lyon and all that kind of thing, Spurs. If Donnarumma's in goal for those games, I'm telling you that we're getting to at least 2 more finals. And that's not me saying that Edison's absolutely terrible, but Donnarumma's the best shot stopper in the world. He's absolutely unbelievable, and he might not be that good with his feet, but we've got enough players to do that. I genuinely think it's a proper game changer if we can get him in.
He's hit and miss, Donnarumma. That's the problem. I like him as a goalkeeper. I think
not in big games. Not in big games.
Not in big games, no. But that's true. But can you rely on him when you're playing Burnley, when you're playing Wolves away? You know, these games where where City 3-4 years ago, you knew you were getting 3 points. Like, that's a 6-pointer in the bank every single week. Is this someone you can rely on? I also feel really sorry for James Trafford, because he does fit the Pep mold. You know, he's great with his feet. He's also a really solid young goalkeeper. Like, I get that Donnarumma is he's an opportunity. Like, that's not one you miss, considering the quality of keeper is in the world of football. But
this is the thing, right? Like, you can feel sorry for players like Trafford. You can understand that City have changed their model, but you have to understand what Liverpool have done. Liverpool needed a left back, a right back, a centre attacking mid, and a striker. By the end of the window, they'll probably have the best 4 in those positions. Right? That's what they do. That's what big teams do. City's aim every single year should be winning the quadruple. So if a Donnarumma comes up for sale and there's a possibility of getting him when he's the best shot stopper in the world, you just get him. If a Rodrigo's out there, who's one of the best wingers in the world, who's won however many Champions Leagues and still only 24, you just have to get these players. I don't think that we can wait. And we know that Pep Guardiola realistically is going to leave after 2 years. This isn't really one of those times where we can buy like a youngster, embed them in the squad, teach them how to play and do this and do that. This is a time, especially after last season, where we won nothing, which is unheard of for City and for Guardiola. This is a time when we need to win. And I just think those 2 names are just too big.
I think you're onto something there. I think the reason we're doing this is because Guardiola's leaving in 2 years. I think genuinely, I think he wants another Champions League. I truly think that's his motivation there, and which is a little bit, you'd argue, it's a little bit short termist in terms. I know it's not, because to win Champions League is the ultimate aim, but it is very contradictory to how Guardiola usually approaches things. He's all about the system, and if I would say buying Donnarumma and Rodrigo is not a very Man City thing to do. We spent a lot, but it's always been on the next guy, not the guy who's established. It's always been on De Bruyne from Wolfsburg, or Rodri from Atletico, Diaz from Benfica, not go to PSG and take, arguably, the high. Donnarumma is a superstar keeper. Rodrigo's a superstar winger. So it's not what we've done, and it takes a lot for me, because I understand why some people. I think there's different ways of enjoying football. For me, I know it's very much, I'm so lucky as a City fan. I've seen it all. I don't necessarily enjoy signing superstars. It's just my thing. Like, I didn't want City to sign Kane when we were after him, because Kane is just like. I enjoy football because of the romance of it, the story of it, and all that kind of stuff. I preferred signing Haaland because Haaland was on the way up still, if that makes sense, and he can write his legacy at Man City, and he was obviously had that connection to City with his dad. Like, Kane to me would have been a great signing, but a boring signing. And I know ultimately that sounds so spoiled, but it's just how you enjoy football personally. And to me, there's an element of that with Rodrigo and Donnarumma. As great as they are, and I'm sure I'll enjoy watching them, and I'm sure I'll fall in love with them if they do wonderful things. I'm not necessarily excited by it, because they feel like someone else's toys, like that makes sense. I can't explain it, but it's just a feeling to me of like, I like falling in love with Rodri and watching him become a Ballon d'Or player. I like watching De Bruyne become the best in the world at City. I enjoy, watching these guys who are very good but take the step to sort of immortality in a City shirt. And
you can have them both, can't you?
You can have them both, yeah. I guess I'm just not necessarily. I never craved it as such, really, and I think it's because I've been fed one way, if that makes sense, and City, don't get me wrong, we did it with Yaya and David Silva to an extent, and Valencia, maybe at Aguero, Atletico. But it doesn't feel, if this feels different, and I don't know yet how City are going to handle that, because I think the expectation will be different if these players come in. And I think the football will be different if these players come in. And I don't think it's a guarantee of, the success that it's going to change everything. I think it will require City to play different if Donnarumma comes in, because the football is different. Like, Vitinha was dropping alongside Donnarumma, take the ball off him at PSG, and we've been so used to, as City fans, having 11 players in the outfield build-up. It's going to be 10 now, and that will fundamentally change how City play with very little time to get used to it. And that muscle memory of nearly a decade of Ederson, that's going to take a long time to sort of switch up and change. So it could be a little bit painful for a while, and that could, as much as he's great, and and I think maybe the idea is have so much of the ball, that he doesn't have to do much because he's passive. But it's not like there's only upsides to this, I don't think. I think there's going to be some sort of bedding in issues. And I think Rodrigo, he wants to be on the left. And we've got Marmoush out there and Doku out there, and he's great. I'm not saying it's an issue, but we do seem to be one winger down on the right then for width and so on. So as much as these would be great signings, and they could just catapult City to Champions League finalists more or less every season or whatever, they could also, it is, to me, it seems like do it because they're great, but not necessarily an approach that's given City success over the past 10 years. So I don't think that they're necessarily going to change everything. They probably could and most likely will be, but I think there are issues there potentially.
It's going to be interesting to see that, because I think, Hugh, jump in if you disagree here. I think if you're talking about the fact it's going to be difficult, and obviously the build-up is going to be changing, with the wages that Donnarumma is going to be on, the money that you're going to have to pay for him, the fact that you've got 2 more seasons of Pep, is it really the right signing then? I get it's an opportunity signing, but is that not money that could be invested elsewhere?
The thing is, so it's worth it, So
the thing is, Pep's going to leave in 2 years, and whatever happens, no matter who comes in, there's going to be a massive downgrade. Loads of players will leave. Loads of new players will come in. There'll be a massive shift. There'll be a massive change anyway. That is going to happen. There's no manager who's going to come in and just take the reins from Guardiola, and we're going to be playing in exactly the same way, and we're going to keep the exact same team anyway. That just isn't going to happen. So we may as well, if Guardiola does want more trophies, we may as well go for these 2 players who aren't actually going to cost us very much.
I realise
net spend-wise, as everyone loves to talk about, they're not going to cost us very much.
No, less than really Sesko and Buemo and Cunha anyway. And
you're improving Ederson for 10 mil. You're improving Savinho for 15 mil. Like, just makes sense.
And we realize how spoiled I sound. So I can go, maybe they're just too good, though. What are you changing?
No, but the thing is, Haaland was
like, it sounds ridiculous, but but ultimately, the very definition of first world problems in football there, really. And yeah, I don't look. Largely, I was saying to City fans the other day on my video, we can't really lose it. We either get one of the best young wingers in world football stays in the squad in Savino, or one of the best wingers in football comes in the squad, or we have the most perfect goalkeeper for Guardiola, or we get the best shots, one of the best shots. We can't lose as City fans. We're very lucky to have these links. So, I think I need to stop thinking about it too much and just vibe it out and let it happen. And just like wash over and because think too much about it and you start to get paralysis by analysis, and eventually just like, good footballers do good football. That'll do.
I'm not sure they guarantee as much success as immediately as people are suggesting, to be honest.
No, as I said, I semi-agree. But
I do think Donnarumma actually creates quite a few problems, potentially in the dressing room as much as the footballing style. Plus, Rodrigo, he's had plenty of time and success at Real Madrid, certainly in the Champions League, where his record is quite good. His record in La Liga is not as good or not as impressive, I don't think. I'm not sure he's ever got more than 10 goals in a La Liga season. And as a result, I'm not sure that it would translate because, there is a massive downgrade whenever people come to the Prem. So add that to the fact that, like you said, you do have a Marmoush who wants to play on the left. And that would, I guess, see Doku or Foden playing on the right. I don't know whether Doku has a preference, but there's a lot of chopping and changing going around. And add in the mix to sort of Turkey being, I'm presuming, one of the creative outlets or main creative outlets that's supposed to really feed the beast that is Haaland. I am slightly concerned. I mean, I'm not that concerned, but I'm slightly concerned that it might not just happen as quickly as, like I said, people think. So I just really think, as much as Rodri has been discussed, you still haven't solved and potentially will struggle to ever solve the Kevin De Bruyne void that will be left. Because the connection that he had with Haaland was just something otherworldly. And the instinctive ability that Kevin had to get it and give it exactly where this guy wants it is something that I really feel like Doku struggles with. His numbers are exceptional at getting past his man. What happens after that seems quite a lottery a lot of the time. And because of his randomness, I think it's quite difficult for Haaland to predict what to do quite a lot of the time. So I still think there's work to do. As much as it's exciting, and I'm sure they will score a lot of goals. That much I'm sure of. I don't know how it will look or work, or whether it will hold up defensively. So I think it's a stretch to say that they will be favourites, even with Rodrigo and Donnarumma.
Favourites for the league, maybe not. I think it massively improves the Champions League chances. Club competition's so based on moments, and if you've got a guy that's that good at saving shots, and you've got a guy who's that electric on one side, like if you look at that front four and you say Rodrigo on the left, Marmoush in the 10, and Cherki on the right, playing behind Haaland, that's like
Foden on the right.
It's unbelievable. Or you put Foden on the right, you put Cherki in the 10. Like that on paper just seems to be an absolute golden formula to me.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
I mean, I'm a big fan of the Reinders. I think that's a great deal.
I agree.
However, who's going to be playing alongside him? I'd say, again, that's another worry. If it's Gundogan, he's, obviously technically amazing, but how close is Rodri to a return? In all honesty, I see that as pivotal. And, the longer it takes, then the less likely it is that they're going to be challenging, I reckon. I do have Haaland in my fantasy Premier League team. So.
we should probably set up a little fantasy league between a lot of us. I think that'd be important. Just to keep
I
tabs.
don't play it, but you know,
Leave that
what I do is I do. I set up a team and then leave it, obviously, and never touch it again.
Yeah,
I mean, do that. So.
no one
Sometimes
does
not
that.
a bad policy, actually.
Yeah, I always forget about it when it hits that first double game week. That's when I get confused. That's a problem. But I've tied myself into a fantasy Premier League this season, which I have to keep on top of. So I'm going to be doing that, and just have no life. So that's going to be my weekends and my weeks. But Kim, I know
get a league going, right, and put a link in the description so that people watching can join on week 1 or whenever they see this.
Yes, we'll do that. We'll stick one in, get a FRESCO league going, and you can come join us. You don't win anything apart from pride. So that's what we're going to do with that. There's going to be no prizes on the line because
they can win a mug. Come on, I'll chip in.
Chip in, get a mug.
Mug.
First place gets a mug. Second, I think third place get a wooden spoon, like an engraved wooden spoon with Kim's face on it. I think let's do that, and then
sounds like a good prize to me.
Second place we'll figure out. First place gets a mug, according to you. So yeah, get yourself a FRESCO mug.
Siren going off. Oh, great idea.
Kim, I think the police are coming for Kim, so we'll let him go and run so he doesn't get caught.
I'm fleeing the country. Yeah.
I'm going into the motor tour, aren't I?
Yeah, I'll see you in a bit, mate. But anyway,
right, see you later.
See you later.
I've got a lovely interview as well, lads.
You're going to
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah.
We'll go.
Make sure you're subscribed, and we'll see you in the next one.
That's it. See you next one. See you in a bit, Hugh. Right, Steve, let's polish this off then. Let's talk a little bit about Liverpool.
I've got like 7 minutes, mate, as well. So
yeah, I know it's going to be quick, tight. Liverpool. Let's go through it quickly.
Good side, very good side. Signed some good players. Look, the only thing I start doing as a City fan is started looking for weaknesses, because you think where are the guarantees there, but the quality. Florian Wirtz is a superstar. Ekitike looks really, really good, annoyingly good goal. You sort of hoping as a rival fan when he plays his first game to be like, oh look a bit shit. But he doesn't. He looks a bit good. Annoyingly. Really annoying, it's so annoying. Yeah, like go on. I want to see the fail comps on Twitter afterwards, but it's just a really good goal. Kirkes and Frimpong, really good. Yeah, Kirkes. I don't know if he's going to be better than Pete Robertson, but he looks like he could be a really good player. And Frimpong, I think, is once again really nice goal. A bit of luck in it, but really exciting player. I've been a fan of him for like a decade. I'm not exaggerating there. And I watched him for City's youth sides, and I was gutted when he left to Celtic on a free because I thought he was going to be a cracking footballer. Very likeable lad as well. Really good player. They are, of course, they've just about to sign that young Italian centre-back, aren't they? Who's about 6'5" and looks like a monster. And they've also obviously lost Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez, Quansah's gone there to Leverkusen as well. Trent's left. The thing is for Liverpool, it's more just do they get better or do they stay about the same? And if it's the same, like last season was 84 points, is that going to be enough to stop potentially a resurgent, Man City or Chelsea with something to prove, and Arsenal maybe looking to improve themselves? Florian Wirtz will of course be fantastic. I still think there's still an injury midfield away from a pretty weak midfield pairing. Gravenberch and McAllister are good, but after that, there's nothing there really, And centre back, they're signing that young 18-year-old lad, but Konate might be leaving as well. He's only got a year left in his contract. What if Van Dijk just looks old all of a sudden? What if Salah looks old all of a sudden? I noticed they were trying to tuck Salah in a little bit more because of Frimpong getting really wide, and I don't think Salah is at his best when he's tucked in. He really does like to be on the right and find that bit of separation. So they're going to shift how they play for certain players. It could be fine. It could be brilliant. But I think at some point you have to go, well, Salah and Van Dijk could struggle a bit. They're getting older, and that's not an unreasonable question. These are reasons why it couldn't go. It could be fine, and he could score 30 goals again, and Van Dijk could be Van Dijk. But they could have centre-back issues. They could have midfield issues, and Salah could look a little bit older. And, Ekitike, good start, but he could also end up scoring 20 goals, not 30 or whatever, and he could just be pretty decent. They could sign out Isak, and he comes in and scores 400 anyway, and shut up, and they'd be brilliant. But I think there are, question marks over most sides. Liverpool look great, but Liverpool fans I've spoken to as well, they have their concerns that haven't been fixed yet. So, who would have thought City could have last season? All it takes is a few injuries to key players, and all of a sudden everything. And especially when the motivation isn't necessarily, they've won the league, and that was big for them. And I think to win the league twice in a row is really, really hard because you have to, everyone's gunning for you against some great sides. And you have to, I think there's always a bit in the back of your mind like, oh, well, we did win it last year, so things aren't going perfect. it's easier to be like, well, yeah, we did win it last year, and so no one's going to hate us. We've got credit in the bank. So I think that's what makes it so hard to go back to back and back to back to back to back what City did, which is almost absurd. So yeah, I think Liverpool, I've got them to finish probably with City's Rodri asterisk. I got them finishing first probably, but I think it is very possible that I saw some people saying they could drop to like third or fourth, and I don't think that's unreasonable either. Even if some players have good seasons, other players could have poor ones. So yourself.
I've got them finishing second, just purely because even if they are very unbalanced, which I agree with you on, by the way, like saw that with Salah and Frimpong already, I'm going to see how that develops. We'll have to see how they mould. I just think you guys are going to win it. I think it's the chip on the shoulder. I think, like saying, Pep doesn't want to lose. I think the signings you made are really important. Even with no Rodri, I do think that you will find a solution to it. That you will find that solution fast, and Liverpool will find that solution to balancing that squad. So I just think that they're going to be finishing second based on that. Also, bringing in Alexander Isak as well. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap it there because Steve needs to run and I need to run as well. But it has been a very, very fun first episode of the Fresco Pod. We'll be back on Monday to give you some more of our opinions after the first weekend of the Premier League. Make sure you hit the link down below to go and follow and sub to everybody who is involved with Fresco. We'll show you some of the other faces as well.
Do it.
Couple.
It's fun, though, isn't it, Louis? It's funny.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be.
Yeah, this first time we've done it. I'm not even lying, guys. Like, we hadn't even chatted off camera beforehand. Like we just I didn't even know Hugh was on it. So I just jumped on. I was like, oh, hello, Hugh. So we'll get used to each other. And yeah, as I've got 2 kids, man. I literally reply what I need to. I didn't even notice because I'm just too busy, being tired. But yeah, it was fun, and I think I can't wait to cross-reference each other as well. You know what I mean? As more we go forward and we start to know each other's takes and prove each other right or wrong, it should be fun. Subscribe, guys.
Exactly.
Do us a favour.
Hit the link down below. Make sure you hit the bell as well for all the other content that's coming. And follow the Fantasy League. Mate, get involved with that. Win that mug. Steve's not going to be in the league. He's not going to win the mug, but you can win the mug.
No, I've got too many mugs. Just too many.
Take care of yourselves, guys. We'll see you later. Ta-da.